My name is Laurelee, and this is It's Not About Food. So it's not about food, and it's not about weight. What is it about? Everything else, because it's never ever about food or weight, never ever, not even one time, not ever, ever, ever. So today what we're talking about is returning to our innate wisdom. And we get there by eating intuitively. And what I mean by that is eating when we're hungry, stopping when we're full, and eating what our body is asking us to eat. This connects us to our integrity physically that lies beneath the eating disorder and the diet mentality. So eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, and eating what you want is how children and natural eaters eat. They know exactly when they're hungry and they know exactly when they're full. Babies cry when they're hungry. They turn their mouth away when they're full. And they eat only what they want to. You can't feed a baby anything it doesn't want to eat. It will not accept it. And it takes a long time to relearn how to eat intuitively. We work on it for a long time. We all had it as babies. But with the way that the culture is, timing, structures, schedules, diets, we get out of habit of being able to listen to ourselves intuitively, no matter what. So if you want to start with this, you start on a day that's not stressful, and you wait until you feel hungry. And then you wait until you feel what exactly your body would like. And then you wait until you get the signal for fullness. And again, don't expect this to happen immediately. It takes a while. Normal eaters know how to do this, and you will too. So today we have Paula with us.
I'm Paula Capocchi, and I live in Marin County. I was born and raised here. I'm 55 years old. Can't believe I'm 55, but I am. And that's not really very old, but it's, it's strange to be 55.
You've never been 55 before.
I've never been 55 before, and now I am. And it's like, in this life, it's so, yeah. And I'm a hairdresser. I have a business in Marin County. I have a Pomeranian. I have a boyfriend.
What's the name of your business?
Oh, it's Blondie's Organic Hair Salon in Corte Madera. And I do organic hair color, and I use less toxic and non-toxic products. And what else did I want to say? Oh, yeah, I've been in recovery from anorexia and bulimia for at least, I want to say, 25 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it can happen.
We're just going to have a little conversation about this and see what she thinks about how to eat intuitively, what intuitive eating it really even is.
What intuitive eating is for me?
Yep.
Oh, well, it sounds really simple. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, eat what you want. But when I first tried doing it, it was a nightmare because I had so many rules in my head about what was appropriate and what I should eat, what I shouldn't eat. Everybody pretty much knows the drill about eating from your head rather than eating from your intuition and what your body really needs. I don't need to explain that. I don't think. So after, and when Laurelee says it takes a long time, I think to feel really comfortable eating intuitively, I'm sure it probably varies. It does vary from person to person, but for me, it has been many years, and it hasn't been a linear process. And it continues to evolve because I continue to evolve, and my body's needs and just my needs overall continue to evolve. So it's really been about stepping out of the mindset of guidelines and rules, rigid guidelines and rules, to being aware and open to what is needed in the moment. And because the culture is pretty much steeped in the opposite, every day I have to remind myself that I don't have to go along with what everybody else is doing. I need to come back to my own body, my own self, and what I need. So over the years, I've learned that my body has needed, different kinds of food, different amounts of food, different timing and when I eat food. And as I've aged, that's changed too. I've had physical issues in my life that have made me become aware that, if I eat this certain thing, I don't feel good. So the challenge with that is having come from a eating disorder background, that easily my mind could take that, and it did take that, and I was back on a very rigid, strict diet just a few years ago, and back into the whole back and forth restriction, and then overeating, undereating, that whole nightmare, and even back to bulimia again, which is where I hit my bottom before I had to surrender to intuitive eating and the other principles of Beyond Hunger. But luckily I had a long time of intuitive eating under my belt. And I knew that even with these challenges, there would be a way for me to find my way back into intuitive eating, even with these foods that seemed to not work in my body. And I could find ways to eat that were still satisfying on every level. And
that's so great,
yeah,
Paula.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that you're saying is that foundation of you trusting your body, knowing that your body has wisdom, was what led you back to that. Even if your head took you a different way, when you came back to the body, you could hear, no, I want this. Yes, I want this. No, I don't want that. Mm-hmm. Yes, I do want that. And the hardest part is to take our mindset and put that aside and let the body lead us. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me like that's what you're talking about. Even if you kind of struggle a little bit, if we return to that innate wisdom, it won't take us down a weird road, I don't think.
Yeah. And it's interesting, exactly, because, the old mindset is, it wants to just lock in to like, okay, this is how it is now. And every time I eat this happens. So I can never have it. Why? I don't understand how to do intuitive eating that way. That's what I used to say to myself, or that's what I've heard from other people. But it's, you really have to just, I don't want to say you, but it was really good for me to just keep showing up every day with the question, what do I need, rather than what should you have? And, some days I was like, okay, I really might want to have these other things, but my body was really screaming for something that would make it feel better, and then other days I would be like, no, I'm going to, just go off the rails and eat everything that doesn't make my body feel good. But that was usually because I was in a mindset of, I can't have those things.
Yeah, which is the diet mentality.
Yes.
And the diet mentality is also, well, I did eat something that doesn't make me feel really great. So now I have to eat that something a lot because I've already ruined the whole day.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I can't. Yeah. Now I have to eat everything in sight and I can start over fresh tomorrow, was the other trick I would play on myself.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you know, you don't have to do that. You can just, once again, really tap in and see what you need. And a huge part of it, too, is being willing to just forgive myself for the whole mind screw that just happened. And really just saying to myself, you know, you're dealing with a mental thing that you've, you know, learned a long, long time ago. And you just, you know, get up today and just try your best again. And, you know, what else can you do, really? I mean, you can beat yourself up about it and then restrict again and then, you know, continue the cycle, or you can really, really trust and just listen, you know. And it is really hard when, I have to say, it's extremely hard, especially in the early years when cravings are like monstrous, to say, I'm going to trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
That is like, what?
Yeah.
You know, you're just going to lose yourself in a, you know.
You have an addiction.
Yeah, you have an addiction.
You can't do it.
Yeah, you're going to kill yourself.
Your body doesn't know how to eat.
Right, right, your body. But every single time, exactly. But every single time that I did eat intuitively, I proved to myself that this is possible. And now we know with neuroscience that it's basically recreating a new neural pathway in the brain. So every single time I eat intuitively, I'm getting a new groove in there. And every time I do the diet mentality and act out on that and tell myself I have a food addiction, there's that groove. So which wolf do I want to feed, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it doesn't help that our culture is a diet industry culture. $33 billion a year is spent on making us feel like we don't know what to eat. We don't know how to feed ourselves. We don't even know whether we should only eat protein and never ever eat a carbohydrate, or no more fat, or no more, and then that will change. Mm-hmm. So we have to remember that there's a lot of voices out there that tell us the diets is the only way. Do diets, and that's the only way you're going to be happy. But wait, aren't there a million diets? But there's only really one way of my intuition telling me what to eat. It's pretty simple, you know. I have to listen to me. So that is really swimming against the tide in this culture for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And now it's absolutely insane out there. When I was growing up, we didn't have the internet hawking. I don't know how many diets are being sold to us right now in the name of health, quote unquote. If you didn't hear that, in the name of health, quote unquote. you know, it's like, and because I've had my health issues, and I tend to lean towards the alternative ways, you know, of healing. There's definitely a culture out there that has, I think, kind of is slowly or maybe quickly replacing the Jenny Craigs and the Weight Watchers out there. And it's the whole, you know, health diet craze.
Clean eating,
which is just drives me crazy and drives Laurelee crazy, and anyone I ever have known who does intuitive eating.
Because what even is clean eating? Like right now, does that mean like raccoons, we should be washing our food at the town on the river first? Or what? What is clean eating? And that has caused a whole other eating disorder of orthorexia, which means you're afraid of food.
Yeah.
You're afraid to eat food because it might harm you. So people they stop eating food because it's going to harm them, without remembering it's going to harm us more if we don't eat. Then we die. So
Yes.
you have to put gas in the car. You have to put food in your belly. It's the way it works.
Yes. And I mean, if that kind of lifestyle is working for someone, to be like on a keto plan or the paleo or whatever you're doing this month or this year or today or this week, if that vegan
or right,
if any of those are your, I swear to God, this is what works for me. My cholesterol went down a little, it's like, I get it. It's like, I understand.
Fine.
People are suffering out there and they want answers. And I'm just saying that if it's driving you crazy, or for me, I want to come back to me because I can get into like, well, if it's driving you crazy. But for me, it was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And
right. And we forget that we already have this really smart diet part of us that knows, it's bigger than any book, because it's going to tell you, yep, that's it. Nope, that's not it. It's going to tell you that fast. So it's our job to listen. That's what we don't want to do. We don't want to listen to our body. We want to listen to our head. Yes. Especially about the part if you feel like you're too fat. This feels, it's completely out of control to let yourself eat what you want.
Well, hello. I mean, who doesn't feel like they're not too fat in this culture? Really? Who does not?
Right.
I mean, I know there's a percentage of the population that feels like they're too skinny, and they, people talk to them and say, hey, you're too, you need to eat something. You're too skinny. Are you anorexic? And that's, I don't mean to like.
That's another bully.
That's a whole other subject. Yeah. And I feel for people like that, because that's quite frankly bullshit for anyone to be judged for anything.
And it's reverse sizeism.
It's reverse sizeism. And so that's that. But most of us probably feel like we're too fat. And if we eat a certain thing that we think is going to make us fat, then we most likely are trying to restrict it or are actively restricting it in this culture. And how well is that working if you're not anorexic?
Yeah.
And
I think
have
that
an eating disorder.
Yeah. And I think that for me, in the over 35 years that I've been recovered from my own eating disorder, I've eaten several different kinds of ways because that's what my body was asking me to. And if I made a pact with my body that I will listen to it, and it says, I want you to eat licorice, which, by the way, I hate licorice, but I would eat it if there was something I was supposed to be getting from that licorice that I couldn't get anywhere else. I would eat it because my body's asking me for it. Thank God it hasn't asked me for that yet, and I don't want to plant that little seed. But in case if it says licorice, I'll do it. Anyway, so yeah, I think just to wrap it up, I think that if we can trust ourselves to be who we truly are, that means everything to us, whether that's what we eat or what we look like or what we do for our life or our work or who we're with, our partners, or every part of us. We need to live intuitively about that. If it feels right for us, it probably is.
Yes. And you just reminded me of the intuitive eating diet
Yes.
what happens to a lot of people and I did this too, once they get introduced to intuitive eating, is that you tell yourself, or I told myself, okay, I always have to eat perfectly intuitively now. And it may not have been this loud voice in my head that was so obvious. It was unconscious because, unconsciously I'm always living on a, okay, this is the new rule now. This is the new rule now.
Yes.
And to control, because I'm afraid of being out of control. That's been my main addiction my whole life, pretty much. So it's like, okay, it's not a perfect thing. It's like an experiment always. And it's like yoga. If anyone does yoga, some days you're going to like feel like, this pose feels so good. And other days you're going to be like, oh no. And it's like, are you going to beat yourself up about that? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to just go, okay, today's the pose. Mm-hmm. Today, this is how the pose is. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like that with all sorts of things in life, really. It's like, today, this is how it is. Okay, I'm going to love myself anyway, as much as I can. Or at least accept it as much as I can.
Right. And I remember many, many years ago, Carol Munter, who wrote the book Overcoming Overeating with Carol Munter and Jane Hershelman, said, I don't think we have an eating disorder. I think we have a feeling disorder, because that's why we're doing this. Because if we have big feelings, we get all wrapped up in the very controlled diet, and then we feel better because now we feel back in control.
Yes.
So it's a control addiction, not really a food addiction.
Exactly. And there's so much more to talk about this. So, I could go on and on.
And we will have you back again many times. So,
thanks.
What kind of hope would you like to give to somebody who's like you, some young girl out there that when you were starting your eating disorder, what would you like to say to her?
That just, my whole heart just opens up and tears come to my eyes, because I remember when I first started this journey, how lost I was, just lost and feeling so alone and distraught and so ashamed. And, this can end. This can absolutely end. You can absolutely learn how to eat again and eat in a way that, for the most part, feels sane and isn't driving you absolutely crazy and going to, make you feel like you're just going to die. You can walk away from that. And, it does take a commitment, but a gentle commitment, not a harsh, hard, you have to do this right commitment. It's a gentle commitment to your life, the rest of your life, and
taking care of yourself.
Just taking care of yourself in the best way you can every single day. And however that looks is good enough. Just remember, that's what I want to say, because I had a harsh critic that it was never enough. I was never recovering fast enough. This wasn't enough. It is enough. Every little thing that you can do is enough. So just remember that. And just remember, I love you. Even if I don't know who you are, I love you. And I know you can do this. Yeah.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Laurelee. Thank you for all that you've done to help so many people recover, and me too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for listening. And be sure and follow me on Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and itsnotaboutfood.com. Thanks.